Brought to you by Charity Mobile. Switch to the phone company that supports your beliefs. All plans start under $50 before taxes and surcharges. Use promo code TRADITION at CharityMobile.com for a special offer.
For the last few years, really, many of us have expected the Vatican to try to clamp down on independent Catholic reporting. Whether these are journalists or podcasters or whatever, we expected at some point they would try. And it looks like we just might have the beginnings of that effort. And it's coming under Pope Leo, not Pope Francis. Wrap your head around that one for those of you who are still skeptical of those of us who are skeptical of him. He gave an address to the bishops. He gave it last week. Kind of got lost in all the news of tragedy last week. And when he gave this address, he essentially told the bishops, with the looming shadow of Bishop Strickland over them, to trust the experts, the communications experts. These are your media professionals in the Vatican and in the Vatican press and in a trusted media allied with them. Quite the statement. We must trust the media, because if the bishops have to, then we do too. Let's go here. First to Gloria TV, and then we'll start going to direct sources. Leo XIV decries fake news on social media. And if he was just saying fake news bad, I'd be 100% with him. In the aftermath of what happened to Charlie Kirk, we saw all sorts of heinous things being attributed to him. People taking things he said, clipping them out of context, and making him seem like a horrible human being. Other fake news being promulgated by the mainstream media, trying to turn him into something, or trying to turn the man who took him down into something he wasn't, to avoid direct blame on themselves, actually. Fake news abounds. We need to be vigilant against it. And if that is what he meant, there would be no question about it. We would be probably cheering him. But the shadow of Bishop Strickland looms over this. And remember, who was the prefect for the dicastery of bishops when they took down Bishop Strickland? Cardinal Robert Prevost, who is now Pope Leo XIV. He was involved in that process. Here's the detail. Here's a short article, and we'll go to some direct sources. At a reception for 200 bishops ordained last year on the 11th of this month, Pope Leo XIV urged caution regarding fake news on social media. According to the Pope, there is a danger that, quote, everyone feels entitled to say whatever they want, even if it is false. In serious cases, the bishops should consult so-called communications experts. Leo XIV rule for dealing with problems on the internet: stay calm, keep a clear head, and seek professional help, end quote. On the surface, not such a bad thing. But it gets a little weirder when you dig a little deeper. So we turn here to zenit.org, Catholic news website. They say the world seen from Rome. On the headline, Abuse, Social Media, Synod, Seminaries, Mission. This is what Pope Leo XIV addressed during a meeting with new bishops. And there's a lot going on here. A lot. Some of it pretty good, telling bishops not to sweep away McCarrick kinds of problems. Good words coming from him, especially since he was accused of having done that himself. It's good words. We'll see if in the future the actions meet the words. Here are the details from this that are relevant to what we're talking about here. At the end of his address to the newly appointed bishops in the Synod Hall on the morning of the 11th, the Pope continued by offering an account of the challenges and issues they must face at the beginning of a new ministry. The fears, the feeling of unworthiness, the different expectations that each one had about his life before the call, pointing out how it is necessary to remain close to the Lord, to keep a time of prayer, to continue living the unconditional trust in the Holy Spirit, the origin of one's vocations. So far, so good. Pope Leo emphasized the value of pastoral and human experience cultivated in a local church, which must be developed in a new ministry that connects bishops with the universality of the church. When he says local church, they mean like the church in Oklahoma City, not St. Fill in the Blank's parish. Typically the Vatican, and when we speak about the local church, they mean the diocese. He spoke of the value of witness, of the ability to renew one's contact with the world in order to respond to the questions that men and women of our time are asking about the meaning of life and evil in the world. The answers prepared 25 years ago in the seminary are not enough, he affirmed. He called on the new bishops to be persevering in principles, not intimidated by the first difficulty, pastors close to the people and to the priests, merciful and firm even when it comes to judging, capable of listening and dialogue, not just preaching. Again, so far, mostly sounds pretty fine. In this regards, he added a few words about synodality, not as a pastoral method, but as a style of the church of listening and of common search for the mission to which we are called. And he added, be builders of bridges. He urged them to value the role and integration of the laity in the life of the church and to serve peace unarmed and disarming, because peace is a challenge for all. Finally, before answering some questions, the Pope urged everyone to promptly address cases of inappropriate behavior by the clergy. They cannot be filed away. They must be confronted with a sense of mercy and true justice toward the victim and the accused. He thanked the new bishops for accepting the ministry. I pray for you. The church appreciates your yes. You are not alone. Together we bear the burden and proclaim the gospel of Jesus Christ. In response to the bishop's questions, the Pope spoke of the need to be prudent in the use of social media, where the risk is that, quote, everyone feels authorized to say whatever they want, even false things, and added, there are times when reaching the truth is painful but necessary. In this case, he considered it useful to seek help from communications professionals, people trained in this field, summarizing his thoughts on the matter as follows: calm, a good head, and the help of a professional, end quote. Media professionals are often called spin doctors. If they aren't journalists, then they're spin doctors. That's what they are. They're PR people. This is weird advice, to put it mildly. This gets to be a little more interesting when you put it in the context of a sudden flurry of articles that happened from a couple of Catholic outlets. Here's a good example from Alatea, definitely not a rad-trad news site by any stretch of the imagination. Headline, a practical guide to Pope news and the rest too. Now, they're going to tell you about something that I've told you about, the danger of AI. Did my promised live stream on AI YouTube channels. There are dozens of them out there, and the Vatican is aware of them. Now, if somebody from the communications office of the Vatican happens to be seeing this, you have the ability to get on the horn with YouTube itself and to complain to them about all these channels impersonating the Pope using AI. They violate the terms of service of the platform and can be shut down. Do not hesitate to do it. There's no need to engage in a synodal dialogical process with them. They are impersonating the Pope and putting words into his mouth. It's a violation of the terms of service and a grave sin. No hesitation needed. But it goes beyond this. Because if they were just tackling the AI impersonations of the Pope and other high-profile church figures, that would be great. I would applaud them. But it goes beyond that. From the article, which is written by, well, it doesn't say over here, probably at the end, quote, I was so confused watching a video of Pope Leo XIV the other day. Something seemed really off. He was speaking in trendy slang terms that didn't seem right for the dignity of his office, and making off-the-rails comments about sports that didn't seem worth his attention. Then it dawned on me, none of this was real. This weird, glitchy, nonsensical video about the Pope was actually AI. It's scary how easily artificial intelligence can make fake videos that look like the real thing. And horrifyingly, Pope Leo XIV is a frequent target. AI-generated videos and audios of Pope Leo XIV are populating rapidly online, racking up views as platforms struggle to police them. An AFP investigation identified dozens of YouTube and TikTok pages that have been churning out AI-generated images, delivered in the Pope's voice or otherwise attributed to him. And it's not just AI causing problems. And here we go. Some public voices on both sides of the aisle love to stir up controversy, taking super inflammatory positions and spreading ill will where none should be. And then here's how they tell you to do it. When you read between the lines here, it means turning off your Catholic podcasters and trusting their trusted sources. And they even give you a few of them here. Fortunately, there are a few steps we can take to safeguard against online sources that spread division and misinformation. Interesting that they include the word division. Alatea reached out to Katie Prejean McGrady, a radio host, author, speaker, and Catholic media expert, and also a extreme modernist. McGrady recently co-authored When the White Smoke Clears, a guide to Pope Leo XIV's early days, with Father Mike Schmitz, Jeff Cavins, Dr. Edward Sri, Father Josh Johnson, and others. Her chapter, Beyond the Media Storm, Navigating Papal Coverage Wisely, offers practical and spiritual advice for following church news in a sane and healthy way. Here are the 3 tips from the modernist writer for engaging well with media coverage of the church and the Pope. Go directly to the source. It's so easy to be duped that you have to go to the source, McGrady said. Anything the Pope says into a microphone is published on the Vatican website within 24 hours, often even faster than that. If a comment supposedly from the Pope seems suspicious, take the time to look it up and verify it before resharing it. Now, to be fair, that's not different than too terribly different than the advice I give you. Most of the time I post my sources to the Anthony Stine Substack. You can go find it there, follow me there. Most of the time my sources are there. That's why I tell you, don't just take my word for it, go read what I'm telling you. But, quote, she listed the following trustworthy official sources for papal coverage. Vatican website, the Dicastery for Communication, who have been caught whitewashing things, Pope Francis said, and the Pope's official social media accounts on Twitter or X and Instagram. And here's where it gets interesting. 2, practice digital discernment. There are 2 different parts to digital discernment. One part, listen to honest and level-headed voices. What does that actually mean? The second part, approach news consumption with a healthy sense of balance. She explains, quote, if there's somebody who's posting things purely to make you mad from both sides, and that's probably a money-making pursuit on their part and not a truth-sharing pursuit. If something you are seeing about the Holy Father is making you upset or mad or causing some sort of visceral reaction, that's probably not good for you. We have to have a spirit of discernment and evaluate how much our senses are being flooded and choose not to overconsume all the content constantly presented to us. In other words, if something you seeing the Pope does makes you mad, it's not on the Pope, it's on you for watching things that might make you mad. That's a little weird. That's kind of weird advice. See if she makes it any better. We have to be very reasonable in our approach to make sure we're not just consuming things that cause an emotional response, but that is intellectually challenging and gives us a chance to engage with the truth. Looking for sources focused on truth sharing, not rage baiting. If you feel yourself getting upset or overwhelmed, step back and take a break. She tells you to root things in prayer. That's generally good advice. I won't counter signal her for telling you to root things in prayer. That's good general advice. But there's more on the Pope's actual address. Again, from Alatea, who gives us, hold on, link troubles here. Who gives us this, though? It's, the headline here is perfect timing. Pope Leo speaks out on fraternity. You're about to hear something that could have been written for Pope Francis. My apologies if, according to Miss Prejean, this sounds like rage baiting. But this is, I couldn't tell the difference between this and most of the time things that Francis said. We'll just go to his address. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Although I did have something, there it is. Okay. We're going to, not the whole thing, but a lot of it. So here it is. Right from the actual source. Welcome and thank you for being here. You have come from many parts of the world for the 3rd World Meeting on Human Fraternity, organized by St. Peter's Basilica, the Fratelli Tutti Foundation, the Be Human Association, and the St. Peter for Humanity Foundation. I wonder where the Be Catholic Association is here. The world is currently marked by conflicts and divisions, which makes it all the more important that you are united by a strong and courageous no to war and yes to peace and fraternity. As Pope Francis taught us, war is not the right way to resolve a conflict. The willingness to face conflict head on, to resolve it, and to make it a link in the chain of a new process is the wisest path, the path of the strong. Your presence bears witness to this wisdom, which unites cultures and religions and is the silent force that enables us to recognize each other as brothers and sisters despite all our differences. I'm going to pause. You would not have seen anybody before like World War II in the highest levels of the Roman hierarchy saying people of other religions were our brothers and sisters. You wouldn't have seen it. According to Scripture, the first fraternal relationship between Cain and Abel immediately and tragically became conflictual. However, the first slaying should not lead us to conclude that it has always been this way. No matter how ancient or widespread, Cain's violence cannot be tolerated as normal. On the contrary, the norm is revealed in God's question to the guilty party: where is your brother? It is in this question that we find our vocation, the rule and measure of justice. God does not take revenge on Cain for Abel, but asks him a question that echoes throughout the course of history. Today, more than ever, we must make this question our own as a principle of reconciliation. Once internalized, it will resonate in this way: brothers, sisters, where are you? Where are you in the business of wars that shatter the lives of young people forced to take up arms, target defenseless civilians, children, women, and elderly people, devastate cities, the countryside, and entire ecosystems, leaving only rubble and pain in their wake? Brother or sister, where are you among the migrants who are despised, imprisoned, and rejected, among those who seek salvation and hope but find walls and indifference? Where are you, brother or sister, when the poor are blamed for their poverty, forgotten and discarded in a world that values profit more than people? Brother, sister, where are you in your hyper-connected life where loneliness erodes social bonds and makes us stronger even to strangers, even to ourselves? The answers cannot be silence. You are the answer with your presence, your commitment, and your courage. The answer is choosing a different direction of life, growth, and development. Recognizing the other person as a brother or sister means freeing ourselves from the pretense of believing that we are isolated individuals or from the logic of forming relationships only out of self-interest. It is not only self-interest that makes us enter into relationships. Great spiritual traditions, I wonder what that means, and the maturation of critical thinking enable us to go beyond blood or ethnic ties, beyond those kinships that recognize only those who are similar and reject those who are different. It is interesting that in the Bible, as revealed by scientific exegesis, it is the most recent and mature texts that narrate a fraternity that transcends the ethnic boundaries of God's people and is founded on a common humanity. The stories of creation and the genealogies bear witness that all peoples, even enemies, have the same origin, and the earth with its goods is for everyone, not just for some. At the heart of Pope Francis's controversial and radical encyclical Fratelli Tutti, we read social friendship and universal fraternity necessarily call for an acknowledgement of the worth of every person, always and everywhere. Fraternity is the most authentic name for closeness. It means rediscovering the face of the other. For those who believe they recognize the mystery, the very image of God in the face of the poor, the refugee, and even the adversary. Dear friends, I urge you to identify local and international ways of developing new forms of social charity, alliances between different areas of knowledge, and solidarity between generations. These should be community-based approaches that also aid the poor, not as recipients of aid, but as subjects of discernment and discourse. I encourage you to continue this work of silent sowing. This can give rise to a participatory process focused on humanity and fraternity, which is not limited to listing rights, but also includes concrete actions and motivations that make us different in our everyday lives. We need an extensive covenant of humanity, founded not on power but on care, not on profit but on gift, not on suspicion but on trust. Care, gift, and trust are not virtues to be practiced only in one's spare time. They are pillars of an economy that does not take life, but deepens and broadens participation in life. And he goes on to thank people who participated in that weird pop concert in the Vatican that raised a lot of eyebrows on social media. And then he continues with the one time he invokes Jesus in the gospel. Continuing to nurture the spirituality of fraternity through culture, working relationships, and diplomatic action. Always carry in your hearts the words of Jesus from the Gospel of John. A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, even as I have loved you, that you are also love one another. And by blessing and company and sustain you. The fascinating thing is, if you want actual universal human fraternity that's not in the stonecutter context, I know how to do it. You spread the gospel. You bring people into the church and out of the darkness of whatever error they're in. Whether it's an error of materialism focused on the pleasures of the flesh, or the errors of essentially worshiping a corruption of the Abrahamic God, or the errors of out-and-out pagan worship. But that's not what's being called for here. That is the gospel of making a better world that he's doing. And it sounds nice. We're called to help the poor. We are. Nobody should ever counter-signal that. The problem you run into is that is not what the gospel is. Yes, we're to help the poor. We are to love one another. But the highest form of love is bringing people to the light of Jesus Christ and the salvation he offers. That is the highest form of love. And I don't know why they can't ever say that. Now, despite all this, if you ever want to feel lonely, for those of you who share my concerns about this pontificate, This just came out this weekend. Headline from UCA News. U.S. Catholics like what they've seen so far in Pope Leo XIV, who has a strong approval across political lines and even among non-Catholics, Pew survey finds. Now, I rely on Pew Research a lot for mass attendance numbers, the percentage of people who actually go to mass on a regular basis and agree with, meaning submit to the church's teaching on those dicey moral issues that the world hates us for. And now they're saying Pope Leo gets really, really high numbers from U.S. Catholics. Now, I expect these numbers will decline as time goes on. Here are the details of this. Quote, Catholics in the U.S. like what they've seen so far in Pope Leo XIV, with 8 in 10, 80%, viewing the new pope favorably, and significant numbers of non-Catholics agreeing, according to a new study from Pew Research Center. On September 12th, Pew released results from a survey conducted July 8th to August 3rd in both English and Spanish among a nationally representative panel of U.S. adults selected at random. The 9916 participants included 1,849 Catholics. Pew found that on balance, 84% of the nation's Catholics hold a favorable view of Pope Leo, with 4% disapproving and 11% stating they have never heard of him. How do you not know who the Pope is if you call yourself a Catholic? How? I will forgive the Catholics living off the grid somewhere. But they're probably also not responding to research polls done by Pew. How? In the modern world, how do you not know who the Pope is? Even if you are a lukewarm person who has walked away from the faith, functionally, you go to Mass, you're a creaster. Maybe them. I don't know how. They don't know who the Pope is. Anyway, among U.S. Catholics who attend Mass weekly, the approval rating is even higher, with 95% viewing the Pope favorably. U.S. Catholics who are in the pews on a monthly or yearly basis largely approve him 84%. And even more self-identified Catholics who seldom or never attend Mass give the Pope a thumbs up at 77%. Of the survey respondents who are Catholics, 67% say they know a little about the new Pope, with 25% admitting they know nothing at all about him. Only 7% claim to know a lot about the worldwide Catholic Church's leader. There you go. In case you're wondering also why some of your very high-profile, traditionally minded, recognize and resist Catholic commentators have quietly stopped talking about things going on in Rome, despite a whole host of terrible appointments being made for bishops to local dioceses and very questionable ones so far to the Roman Curia. Now, speaking of that, I expect this week we'll get round 2 of who's getting who appointed to where in Rome. So, watch this space for that news. I am curious what you think about all this, so let me know in the comments, please. I am very, very curious because I have noted before it feels a little lonely at times covering this news. But I shouldn't be surprised. So let me know what you think about all this in the comments. Hit like and subscribe if you haven't. It does help. Sharing this on social media helps a lot too. Thanks to Mark Momorella for becoming a channel member. It is greatly appreciated. And as always, pray for the church and for the Pope. I'm Anthony Stine. Ave Maria.